Today, we are going to deconstruct a film that so many of us love, Catch Me If You Can. We're going to look past the super fun cat and mouse chase and really dig into the subtle filmmaking choices that elevate this movie from just being good to being a true all-time classic. So what's the secret sauce? I mean, think about it. There are tons of entertaining cat and mouse movies out there, right? But what gives this one its incredible staying power? It's not just one thing. It's actually a combination of really deliberate, super clever choices that we're about to break down. And we're going to find the answer by looking at three core pillars of how this film was built. First, its choice of perspective. Second, its brilliant way of showing time passing. And third, the deep emotional heart of the story that's all built on empathy. Okay, first up, let's talk about what is, without a doubt, this single most important decision the filmmakers made. Choosing whose story this was really going to be. It sounds so simple, but trust me, this one choice changes absolutely everything. Just think about the standard crime film for a second. The story almost always follows the heroic agent, the good guy. And look, that would have been a perfectly fine movie. But by shifting the focus over to Frank Abagnale Jr., the story just completely transforms. It stops being about what he did, and it becomes all about why he did it. It goes from being a simple story about the law to this incredibly complex story about a person. And you have to understand, this was a huge risk. Choosing to anchor the whole story in the perspective of the guy committing the crimes, that was a really bold move. It totally could have backfired, but instead, it's the very thing that makes the film so unique and so unforgettable. And because we're seeing it all through his eyes, we get let in on all these amazing little details. We aren't just told he's a con artist. No, we see the broken home that really kickstarts his whole journey. We get to witness the incredible, meticulous ingenuity behind all of his cons. It's that closeness, that intimacy, that allows us to connect with him as a real character, not just as a criminal. Okay, so that perspective is huge, but it's backed up by another filmmaking choice that is just so clever. It's not just who tells the story, but how the story gets told, especially when it comes to showing the passage of time. Now, the filmmakers could have taken the easy way out, right? They could have just slapped some text on the screen. 1 year later, done. It's the standard, kind of lazy way to show a time jump. But Catch Me If You Can is anything but standard. It goes for something so much more elegant and character-driven. So what's their solution? It's the recurring Christmas Eve phone call. And honestly, this is just a genius narrative device. That first call, it sets up this little ritual between them, but it also reveals so much about Carl's character, this lonely, dedicated guy. And then, when the next call comes, we as the audience just instinctively feel that an entire year has gone by. It's this one simple device that moves the plot forward, deepens the characters, and marks time, all without a single clunky line of explanation. And all of this brings us right to the emotional heart of the film, and our third major point. That profound, unexpected relationship that develops between the hunter and the hunted. Tom Hanks's character, Carl Hanratty, he's just not your typical hard-nosed FBI agent. He's what you might call an empathic pursuer. For most agents in these movies, the job ends once the cuffs are on. But for Carl, that's almost where his real work begins, because he's always trying to look past the surface. Carl isn't just seeing the check fraud, the list of felonies. He looks deeper. He sees the intentions, the really difficult family situation that pushed Frank out the door in the first place. He sees a lost kid, a human being, not just a target. And maybe most importantly, he sees Frank's potential for something more, for a way to use that incredible mind of his for good. And this empathy, it's what ultimately saves Frank. This whole story isn't just about punishment, it's about redemption. It's Carl's ability to see the person behind the crimes that eventually leads to Frank getting out of jail and finding a whole new purpose in life, turning all those illicit skills into a legitimate career. So when we put all of these pieces together, we really start to see the true anatomy of a masterpiece. It's not any single thing, but it's the way all of these brilliant choices work together. So in the end, Catch Me If You Can really achieves that classic status because of these three pillars. It dares to tell its story from the criminal's point of view, it masterfully uses character interaction to show the passage of time, and most importantly, it builds its entire emotional core on empathy, choosing to focus on understanding and redemption over just simple punishment. By combining all this cleverness, this heart, and this narrative risk-taking, the film just creates something truly special. Yes, it's a thrilling chase, but it's also a story about a lonely kid finding a father figure in the very man who's hunting him down.
It's a story that reminds us that behind every crime, there's a person, and that understanding that person is so much more powerful than just catching them. And that, right there, is the mark of a true masterpiece.